What is up, homies? This is Ryan, and it's been a while since you've seen this screen on my channel, right? Most of you, if not all of you, I'd say at least 95% of you are subscribed to this channel because of what I've done on Out of the Park Baseball over the past several years. I started doing a regular franchise series on each version of this game. I want to say 2016, and now we're in 2019. Was not able to do one last year. I started one with the Mariners, and it just never really got off the ground because I was very inconsistent with it. For the first couple months the game was out, I was not really able to record like I would have wanted to. It's, for a multitude of reasons, I was not able to do one last year, which was disappointing because I really enjoyed being able to interact with all of you that subscribed for this game, and I was not able to do that last year, so it was a little disappointing. But I figured I am now a senior in college. For those of you that do not know, I have 6 weeks left, and then I am a college graduate. So I don't know if I'm ever going to have the time to do a series like this again after this year, after I get a job. So figured for at least one more time, perhaps the last time, we would do one more Out of the Park Baseball franchise series here on my channel. And we've still yet to win the World Series. We tried with the Angels and we got to the World Series, but we could not win. We tried with the Marlins. He couldn't win, so we have yet to win a World Series on this channel. Now, we have gone in the past with typically teams that have poor farm systems that need to be rebuilt. It's going to take a little bit of time to get back to the playoffs, but this year I'm going to do something a little different, kind of because this might be the last time I do a series like this on YouTube, but also because I want to try something different. I've did the rebuild and stuff like that all before, and I think there's really a lot of people that play this game that upload to YouTube that do stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of buck that trend a little bit and do something else. So I hope you guys enjoy. You'll notice that the microphone quality is not as good as it usually is. That's because I'm not using my regular mic that is at my house at school. I'm using the mic on my Razer headset. So if it seems like you hear a lot of pops, like you probably just heard, it's because I don't have a pop filter. I'm using this microphone attached to my headset, so just bear with me. In terms of upload quantity, upload schedule, I'd like to try and do this at least twice a week. Any more, that would be even better. But aiming for twice a week, and I think I can do that. If nothing else, definitely on the weekends will be pretty easy to churn out a couple of these videos. But hopefully twice a week, and then maybe once I graduate from college, as I'm before I start my before I hopefully start my job, gonna knock on wood. Maybe the upload schedule will be a little more than 2 videos a week. But enough talking. You guys did not come here to listen to me do a podcast. You came here to watch me play Out of the Park Baseball 20, the 20th iteration of Out of the Park Baseball. Now, I was looking on the subreddit. I've been talking to friends who, speaking of friends, big shout out to my friend Zach, who gifted me a copy of Out of the Park Baseball 20. So, big shout out to Zach. He is an incredible dude, and he let me get this game. I didn't have to buy it this year, which was incredible. So, um, yeah, I've been reading and listening and doing a lot of stuff that this game in the beta was extremely buggy. In fact, much more buggy than it normally is when it comes out in beta, which was a little disappointing to hear. I've played this game obviously in beta for the past several years, and I had a couple issues here and there, but not too much. But from what I'm hearing this year, it's been a little bit of an issue. So hopefully this is the full release version, so hopefully I have no issues. I don't have to restart the game. Nothing bad happens. Gonna knock on wood again that nothing bad happens with the save because I would hate to have to start over on this. But we're going to do a new standard mode. I don't think I'm gonna do challenge mode just for personal reasons, kind of mainly because I would like the opportunity to go into commissioner mode, and if let's say a contract extension happens in real life, I might want to do that in the game. And a perfect example, I saw Chris Sale just got an extension today. I think it was 5 years and 150 million. So I don't think I'm going to do challenge mode this time around. Yeah, it's Yeah, I'm not going to do commissioner mode. I want a little more control over what happens. So we're going to do a new game. We'll do YouTube as a great title. Really cool new feature, live start. It lets you start the game on this date. So you could start hypothetically in July. You could start on like July 2nd, and everything would be accurate for that league, which would be really, really cool. I'm not going to do that for this just because we're still in spring training. It's not really necessary, but let's select leagues. We'll do the U.S. Independent League with Cuban in there. Get one of the Japanese leagues. We'll get the KBO. We'll do China, sure, why not? Australian Baseball League, we'll put them in there as well. We'll choose the that one, and why not? We'll throw in the Mexican one as well. So we have MLB, the independent leagues in the United States, Mexican League, Cuban League, the league in Japan, KBO, China, Australia, and the Netherlands. So that will be that. So this is going to take a while, as always. So through the power of video editing, I will be back when this finishes loading. We are ready to go here in Out of the Park Baseball 20. I probably should have filled out the profile information, so we'll do something really original. We'll go Ryan and then Waldis. Then we'll put my date of birth as well because I'm extremely creative. Really going out on a limb with this one. GM and manager. Uh, we're not. We'll start right now. We can always turn that off if I need to. We will keep cannot be fired off. So I said that I'm not going to do a rebuild this year. I toyed around with the idea, but I wanted to do something different since I said this might be the last time I ever do one of these on YouTube. So we are going to go with my favorite team, the Philadelphia Phillies. Come on, y'all know I had to go with the Phillies after the offseason they had. So we are going to go with my favorite team. I think this is the first time I've ever done something like this for my favorite team on any sports series that I've done. That's fine. So here we are, the new Phillies logo that was released over the offseason. So we're going to change a lot of settings on this. And I know that I end up getting a lot of comments, a lot of messages that are always asking, oh, what should I do with this? Or I don't understand what you did. Can you explain it a little more? Or I'm new to this game and I'm watching your videos and they're really helping me out. So along the way, I'm going to try to explain stuff. So this isn't really going to be like a tutorial series. It's still going to be more of like a let's play, I suppose, if you want to call it that. But I'm going to try to explain stuff as much as possible. That way, in case you're watching this and you're new to the game, you can kind of understand why I do certain things, why I look at certain statistics, why I might draft someone over another, what I look for during the draft, what I would do during free agency, why I would pay one guy this much money, but another guy another amount of money. So all that stuff and more, I'm going to kind of try to explain on the road ahead. And if for whatever reason I forget, if you have any questions, just call me out on it. Let me know. I would love to help out all the new people that are playing this game for the first time. So. Once again, I'm going to take a quick break and I'm going to change some of the settings that I need to change here for this save file. So before we take a look at the rosters, I'm going to just go ahead and do that. So stick around. All right, all these settings that I need to change have been changed, so I will go through them. If you guys want a more kind of in-depth look at why I might do certain things, once again, just let me know. The only thing I changed on this screen was I disabled owner goals. Now, in the past, I've kept those on, but I'm not really a huge fan of them anymore, which is one of the reasons why I turned off challenge mode. So if you take a look here, if I go to my mail and news, so every year you get goals from your owner if you've never played this game. And you're supposed to try to complete as much of them as possible, but sometimes they're just really, really, I'm not going to use the word unrealistic. I'm not going to use the word unattainable, but um, sometimes it's like sign Juan Nicasio to an extension. Well, what about if I don't really want to do that? That's a 32-year-old relief pitcher. Phillies have a lot of relief pitching in the minor leagues, especially in this game. Relief pitchers are a dime a dozen. So if I don't want to re-sign Juan Nicasio, I'm not going to do that. But if I don't do that, then my owner John Middleton, is going to get very upset at me. And it could get to a point where if I'm not completing enough of these owner goals, I could get fired. So I'm not going to keep those on. I think this is the first time I've ever turned them off. But that's the only thing I changed on this screen. Now, for the rating scales, it's really whatever you're most comfortable with. The default for the longest time in this game was 1 to 20, and then recently they changed it to 20 to 80, which is what the actual Major League Scouts use, where 20 is just the worst, and 80 is elite. I believe 60, 55 to 60 is considered above average. So it depends on the source that you look at. But I'm going to use the 20 to 80 scale. I know a lot of people use 1 to 100 in this game because that's how most major sports titles work. Sports titles like Madden, MLB The Show, FIFA, games like that, they use 1 to 100 to rate their players. I'm going to use 20 to 80 just because that's what I'm most comfortable with. It's what as I said, the actual major leagues use to evaluate players. They use a 20 to 80 scale. So that's the rating scale that I am going to use. Now for players and face gen, I kept the injuries on normal. I toyed around with putting it on high, but even on normal, there's a lot of injuries that occur. So we're gonna keep it on normal. I don't want to see what realistic modern day would be like in this game. Uh, I changed the batting aging and pitcher aging speeds. It's something that I always do. It seems that, at least in my experiences, they age a little too quickly to the point where once they reach their early 30s, they kind of really tail off. And for a lot of players, that's true. But there's players like your I'm not going to name any names, but there's players that don't really like. Torrey Hunter's a good example. Like when he reached 32, 33 in this game, that would have been it for him. But he had a very solid playing career up until his late 30s. But if he kept it at 1.000, which is the default, he probably wouldn't have had that type of career. So I'd like to change these aging speeds that way the guys that kind of have a lot of longevity can play until they're in their 36 to 39ish and still be productive instead of being neutered out of the league at 32, 33. The same thing goes for pitchers. I keep the dev speed the same. Normally I'll change the talent change randomness to 125. I'm going to keep that at 100 for right now. If I need to change that, so be it. If I need to change these aging speeds, I'll do that too. I'm just going based off of what I've had to do in the past, but if I can see that there's like 42-year-old pitchers that are still pitching to ERAs around 3, I might have to change that number a little bit, but we're going to just go with 0.750, and if I need to change it, then so be it. I like face gen, and I have kind of the type of computer where it makes sense to utilize it a lot. That's another question I get asked. It's like, oh, well, I only have this laptop or this type of computer. Is the game going to be able to run? Absolutely. This game can run on almost anything. There's some things that I probably wouldn't recommend. But if you have just even the most basic laptop, I had the most basic type of laptop for several years when I played this game. Even for my first OTP series that I ever did, which was I think the Angels one, I was using a laptop. So actually for both OOTP series, I was using a laptop. So it's possible. It might go a little slower at times, but it's definitely possible if you have, a most basic laptop or kind of lower rung computer. You can still play this game. You can still enjoy it. You can still get all the benefits. It's still a lot of fun. But going back to Face Gen, I'd have it for all players, all coaches, scouts, and managers. I have it to update a lot. So whenever we go into player pages, we'll get to see these reproductions of their faces, which it's really cool. That's always been one of my favorite features of Out of the Park Baseball, that they do that, and they always look really realistic too, which is really really cool. The only two things I would recommend, especially if you have um, maybe a computer that was not made or built recently, disable baseball cards for sure. When you get to the All Star break, all the All Stars get baseball cards made, and if you don't disable that, it takes a very long time to get through all that. I personally also disable away uniforms. That's just a personal preference. If you want to, that's fine. If you don't want to, that's also fine. But that's just something I normally do. Now, I was hearing that they adjusted the trading AI, but some people still said it was a little too easy. So I decided to go very hard for the trading difficulty. I'm not going to go heavily favor prospects. I have it to favor prospects. If I need to change that, I will. I also changed the player evaluation AI settings like I always do. In the past, I have not did something like this, but now I'm going to go 40, 30, 20, 10. I forget what I used to do in the past, but this year we're going to go 40, 30, 20, 10. I believe the default is 60, 20. Then I want to say 2 years ago would be 5, and then whatever the difference of that is would be previous year. So I'm going to change it to 40, 30, 20, 10. And then, yeah, so we'll apply those changes now. I did not do that. Awesome. So, Almanac, nothing there, nothing for online league or database. So, league settings, this is where the rest of the changes happen. Rules, I toyed around changing the size of the expanded roster because that's going to be a new rule in Major League Baseball, but just going to keep it at 40 for right now. I'm not going to mess around with that. If I want to change it for next season, I can do that, but just going to keep it at 40 right now. Did I change anything else? Yes, I did. So I allowed trading of injured players more than 7 days because that does happen in the major leagues. There is a deadline, amateur draft, Rule 5 draft. All that stuff is still good to go. Financials, I did not change anything here. I thought about it, but I did not. Options, I thought about disabling automatic evolution because a lot of times it just exists to just mess around with the team you're trying to build, and I mean that half sarcastically, but I'm gonna keep that on. So with automatic evolution, things like expansion, team relocation, the DH rule in the National League, the roster size, stuff like that. There could be more or less pitching, more or less offense. That could happen all with automatic evolution of the league. I did change two of the award names. So if you go to the award names, the default for the best hitter is the platinum stick, and the default for the defense award is great glove. In actuality, it's called the silver slugger and the gold glove. So I always like to change that as soon as I get into a new save, just for realism purposes. And I believe that's all I changed on this side. On this side, I changed a couple things with the All Star game. Yeah, so the default for influence and popularity in All Star vote, the default is high. I like to do it to moderate. That way, popularity still kind of plays a role like it does in real life, but it gives you the opportunity to see guys that probably wouldn't otherwise make it that are having good seasons. I also disabled the option to have all teams represented at the All Star game. That way, the best players make it the best 34 players in Major League Baseball make the All Star game. Not all teams are going to be represented. That's kind of how I'm trending towards in real life. I was a big proponent of having all teams represented, but now I'm kind of on the other side of that recently. So we're going to go with that this year. Players, I did not change any of this, none of that, and I did not change any of this. But you can already see just how many things you can change, so it's easy to see why someone who's never played this game before might be a little overwhelmed just because there's so many things you can do with this game. That's apparently what I look like. That was the picture that was created for me, so I guess that's what I'm gonna. I guess that's what I look like. It's awesome. In the past, it's funny. I've actually seen really accurate depictions of what I actually look like in real life, created, which is really really cool. But enough about that. Those of you that have been around the channel for a while know that my first episode, I don't like to do too much. I just kind of want to go over the roster, the top prospects, the outlook for the season, the outlook for the this franchise series. So as you see, we have been hired. The goals from our owner, even though we're not going to follow them, were to play close to 500 ball this season. I would hope that wouldn't be an issue. Upgrade at third base, I would agree. Sign Juan Nicasio to an extension and reach the playoffs in the next 4 seasons. Once again, if this team does not make the playoffs at least once in the next 4 seasons, that's a major issue. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the retooled Philadelphia Phillies rosters and transactions. That's what I want to do. So this is the best team the Phillies have fielded since 2011 at least, and probably dating back a little further as well. The main weakness with this team is starting pitching. We're relying on a lot of the younger guys to take steps forward, and if they don't, then we'll need to go from outside of the organization to fill up our starting pitching staff. But the bullpen is solid. The offense is really, really good. At least it should be. So we will go step by step here. So we'll start with the starting rotation right now. It's slotted as Arrieta, Eichhoff, Nola, Pavetta, and Velasquez. we have a lot of other options at different levels of the minor leagues. We have Zach Eflin, we have Aniel De Los Santos, we have Ranger Suarez. They all received major league time before. I believe Eshelman. Yes, Eshelman. He's another guy who's in real life, he outside of last year, he was very solid. He was moving up the ranks. Last year was a pretty rough year for him. OOTP, it seems like, has never really been high in Eshelman, and maybe last year their beliefs were proven to be true. But there are a lot of starting pitchers we have in the minor league system. Of course, they did trade their top prospect Sixto Sanchez to the Marlins to get JT Realmuto this offseason, so they lose him, but they still do have other starting pitchers such as Adonis Medina, who, according to Fangraphs, is our number one prospect. He is right now slotted to be in AA in this OOTP save. Nick Fanti, another guy, Edgar Garcia, Jose Taveras, Spencer Howard. We have a lot of starting pitching in the minor leagues. Not really a lot of ace potential down here. Medina, maybe in the future, but a lot of these guys probably won't be aces, but they could definitely be solid middle of the rotation, back of the rotation guys, which are always needed. But right now it's slated to be Arrieta, Eichhoff, Nola, Pivetta, Velasquez. Not sure if I'm going to keep Eichhoff in there in the rotation. I might. He was solid before his injuries. I might kind of look to get Eflin in there. I might look to get De Los Santos in there instead of Eichhoff, but we'll mess around. We'll see. The bullpen, we have a lot of options. So right now on the 25-man roster, we have Jose Alvarez, who was acquired in a trade with the Angels this offseason. Sir Anthony Dominguez, who really came onto the scene strong last year as a rookie. He has a chance to be one of our stud bullpen arms for the foreseeable future. Tommy Hunter is back, as is Hector Neris and Pat Neshek. Juan Casio and David Robertson, a guy that we signed in free agency this year to shore up the back of the bullpen. A lot of the issues with the Phillies collapse last year came because the bullpen really just fell apart towards the end of the year. Dominguez he could not save everything by himself. He did not really have a lot of help in that bullpen, and just the leads were getting blown, which was unfortunate, and the entire team really just fell apart. The bullpen was a big part of that. So those are the options right now we have in the Major League roster. We have Adam Morgan right now in AAA, James Pazos in AAA. I might want to bring him up. Edibre Ramos is down there as well. You take a look at some other options here. I believe, who is that? That is, Luke Leftwich. He might be an option further down the line. Maybe even in September we might call him up, or if we have a lot of injuries to the relief pitching staff, we might call him up as well. Austin Davis is another guy that could be solid for us in the bullpen. Connor Siebold, Victor Arano has received major league playing time recently, and he was actually pretty solid last year. He struck out 3 times as many guys as he walked. Garrett Clevenger, we got this guy in a trade with the Baltimore Orioles a couple of years back. Yaxiel Rios has received major league time over the past couple of years. So there's a lot of great guys that we could really look to. Tom Wendell is a guy that we got, I believe, in a trade with I want to say the Dodgers several years back. And J.D. Hammer, we got him, I want to say in 2016, maybe 2017. It might have been 2017. Yeah, it was 2017, I think. It was 2016 or 2017. But yeah, this team has a lot of pitching in the minor leagues. As I said, it's not really ace quality or anything like that, but it's a lot of good depth, if nothing else, which is always good, especially for pitching. That's one of the things that Matt Klentak really pushed when he was first hired, the GM of the Phillies. I guess I technically took his job in this. That's one of the things he really pushed for when he was hired as the new GM. You can never have enough pitching, and that's not really a new mindset. It's not really a groundbreaking mindset, but it's still good to have a GM that believes that. Nonetheless, that's kind of the pitching staff right now for our active roster and looking through the minor leagues. So now we get to the retooled offense, and it starts with JT Realmuto, who we acquired in a trade with the Miami Marlins this offseason. It was pretty late, actually. I think it was January. It might have been February. It was either late January or early February. It might actually say it here. Let me go to this page. Will it tell me? I don't. I think there's a way to see it. I don't. Let me see. Yeah, February 7th. Okay. So yeah, JT Realmuto, one of the best catchers in the league, and depending on who you ask, arguably the best catcher in the league, the best offensive catcher in the league, if nothing else. But he's pretty solid behind the plate as well. He's a guy that can hit. He can hit for power. I think he's really going to hit for power here at Citizens Bank Park. He has an okay eye. It's about average, and he can avoid strikeouts. So really great guy to have behind the dish in JT Realmuto. Reese Hoskins will move from left field back to his natural position of first base, so that should help him. And this is a guy that could definitely hit 35 plus home runs in the middle of our order. Cesar Hernandez and Scott Kingery are back at second base. We have Sean Rodriguez potentially as a versatile bench guy, which would be I'm not sure if he's going to be on the major league roster, but we might keep him there. Michael Franco returns as the third baseman, but I would like to upgrade at third base somewhere down the road. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, Nolan Arenado could have been in the upcoming free agent class. He will not be anymore, so it would be helpful to try to find an upgrade over Franco if at all possible. But a guy that can hit maybe around 25 home runs and have an OPS of, maybe around 750-ish. It's not a bad thing to have at the back of your lineup. So I'd like to upgrade at third base, but it's not the I'd rather upgrade get a starting pitcher before I get a third baseman. Gene Segura, another guy that we traded for. We got him from the Mariners in the trade that we offloaded Crawford and Santana, which was a great deal. We killed two birds with one stone there. Segura, he's going to help out a lot defensively at shortstop. That's a place where Scott Kingery was playing a lot towards the end of last year, especially. So not only from a defensive aspect will that help, even though he's only at a 50 for shortstop, which is still pretty solid. You can see his defensive ratings; they're pretty good. A guy that he's not going to hit a lot of home runs, obviously. Maybe 10 to 15 if you're lucky, but he can get on base, which is all that matters. So he's going to be another mainstay in our lineup. And then we get to the extremely retooled outfield, led by Andrew McCutchen, who we signed in, I want to say December, not the editor, December, yeah, December 12th. He's not who he used to be. He's not the Pirates' Andy McCutchen, but I still think he could be a 2-3 win player for us. And you see last year with the San Francisco Giants, he was getting close to being a 3-win player before he went over to the Yankees, where he was pretty solid in OPS 892. Not very good defensively, but he was still good offensively. So you see, even back in 2017 with the Pirates, he was a 4-win player. So a lot of people are kind of writing this guy off. They were like, oh, I don't think he's really going to do that much, especially for $10 million. He could be a very solid player for this Phillies team, and I think that he will be just fine in our lineup. I think he's going to be the leadoff hitter for us, actually, which is going to be really cool. Odubel Herrera will return as the center fielder, and then we have a logjam of right fielders led by, of course, Bryce Harper, the big free agent signing signed at the end of February, one of the best players in all of baseball. I think that last year he was still a 5-win player despite some of his struggles at the plate, especially early on. He hit to an 889 OPS. He had 34 home runs, 100 RBIs. He was not as good defensively as he normally is. And you see, he signed through 2031. So if we go through the contract, um, for whatever reason in OOTP, they still only have this 10-year cap, which is not ideal because Harper's contract was 13 years, so I'd have to add 3 years onto this at some point or another. But Bryce Harper will be our mainstay in right field, and I'm sure the DH is going to get added to the National League at some point in this save, so he'll end up becoming our DH at some point, which is going to be a great way to preserve him for the rest of his career. And you take a look at Aaron Altera and Nick Williams. One of these guys is probably going to be on the team. The other one probably DFA'd or traded for something. I'm probably more prone to keeping Williams just because I like his skill set a little more. Although Williams might fetch a little more on the trade market than Altair would, but that's what the 25-man roster is looking like as of right now. You take a look at the minor league levels to see who we have maybe at other levels in terms of offense. Dylan Cousins, a guy that's been up and down. His main issue is that he strikes out a ton, so he's never really going to hit for a high average. Now I'm not really a big fan of batting average, but still he's kind of one of those true three outcome guys. It's either he's gonna hit a home run, he's gonna strike out, um, or he might walk. So it's really one of those three. I'm not even gonna say a great value Joey Gallo because that's disrespectful to Gallo, but he's kind of in that mold of player until his approach at the plate improves, which it might never improve. But he has a lot of raw power, and raw power sells in this game a lot. So if nothing else, we could always include him in a trade package for a pitcher if it comes to that. Adam Hazley, our first-round pick from several years back, he is pushing for a promotion, and he might be up this year, depending on how the team does, where they're at. So he might be up, but Adam Hazley, big fan of him. That's Lane Adams, who's just minor league depth. go down to Double A and keep going down here. Rob Brantley, that he'll just be a depth catcher. I think he's still with the team right now in real life in spring training, but he'll just be a depth catcher. Grulon, very good defensively. He might be a part of the team over the next couple of years. Going down, Cornelius Randolph, a first round pick, I want to say 2015. He's never really lived up to it. He has the skill set. He's just never really lived up to that first round billing. He's only 21 though, so he might end up being something for us. I believe, yeah, that's Shane Robinson, another guy that's just going to be there for depth. Jose Pujols had kind of an intriguing skill set. He had a solid year last year. He started off in high A, moved to Double A, where he was still pretty solid. He had an OPS close to 800, which is not too bad. So he's a guy that we might see somewhere later down the line, or maybe involved in a trade package. So going further down the list here, I'm looking for Alec Bohm. I believe that's how you say it. I think it's Bohm. Um, this is a guy that has a lot of raw power. He probably will not be our third baseman of the future. He does not really have a ton of range. His arm's not that great, but he has a lot of power. He could definitely be a guy that has an OPS over 800 for us and gets on base at a decent clip. So hopefully he develops. That was our first round pick last year, Alec Bohm. We drafted him as a third baseman, and we drafted him out of, I want to say, I forget what Wichita. I wanted to say it was Wichita State. Yeah. So he might be a big part of our lineup. Of course, he's 22 years old right now, so he could be a fast riser. He could be in the major league team at some point over the next several years. Just some of our top prospects, at least according to Fangraphs. We went over Medina, Bohm, Howard, Luis Garcia, shortstop right now. He's in rookie ball, so he's not going to be a part of the team for a very long time. But another guy that could really proved to be important. His ETA, according to Fangraphs, is 2023. Went over Hazley, Jojo Romero, who I think he's in Double A in this. Yeah, Jojo Romero, one of our better starting pitching prospects. I kind of glossed over him earlier, but he could be a solid back of the rotation starter for this team. He's right now our sixth best prospect. Went over De Los Santos, Simon Muzziotti, a guy that's slotted to be in high A this year, an outfielder. He could be another guy. Francisco Morales, a pitcher, and then Mickey Moniak. I did not see Mickey Moniak. There he is. He's at Clearwater. Guy that was our first round pick in 2016, the year where they could have gotten Nick Senzel, but instead they picked Mickey Moniak because he was going to go under slot, and we could get him for relatively cheap since he was just coming out of high school in California. He's starting to put it together a little bit. He's never going to be a home run hitter, obviously. You can probably tell that based on his build at 6'2", 185. But he could be solid in the outfield. I think at the best case, he could be a high contact guy who gets on base with a lot of speed. And there's always room for those guys in your lineup, even now in the age of power. So Moniak, hopefully he develops. I hope he does. He's one of my favorite players in the Phillies organization. So I really hope that he turns out like he could have back when they drafted him number one overall in 2016. Just some other names to keep an eye on: Daniel Brito, a second baseman; Archimedes Gamboa, a shortstop; Jalen Ortiz. I believe I saw him in Double A. No, where did I see him? There he is. He's in Single A. Jalen Ortiz. Once again, another guy that's not really going to hit for a high average. He's going to strike out a lot, but he has a lot of raw power. So as he gets older, maybe that will develop into something useful. Yeah, it's just I'm very excited to be using the Phillies this year. Using my favorite team, so hopefully that'll help me talk about them a little more. Because obviously, when I do the Angels and the Marlins, I do my research, but I'm not a fan of that team, so I can't really speak as a fan would. But for a team like the Phillies, I've followed them my entire life. Obviously, my favorite baseball team, so hopefully that'll add another layer of fun to the series that has not been there before. Um, so yeah. I'm not going to go through the lineups or the pitching staff yet, although I can't imagine it would change all that much. I might, as I said, I might kick Eichhoff out in favor of Zach Eflin. But taking a look, let me see how the lineup's looking. I'd probably change the lineup. I would not have Segura hitting eighth. I'd probably have McCutchen leading off. I would probably have Segura second, and then I would do Harper, Hoskins, Realmuto, Herrera, Franco, and Hernandez. Probably something like that would be my opening day lineup. I think that's probably the lineup they're going to try out there in real life. So that's probably going to be the lineup that I will utilize, barring injuries for most of the season. So yeah, that was all for episode number one. That's all I wanted to do. As I mentioned, any questions about anything in this game, statistics, why I did certain settings, guys on the team, anything you want to know, leave a comment down below, and I will get to it as soon as I can. So I want to thank you all for watching what might be the last OOTP series I ever do. Episode number one. Be sure to give it a like if you think it deserves one, and hit me up on social media. Always enjoy interacting with you guys there. That will be down in the description box below. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.